Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of our podcast. It's called Is Breakfast Included? Thanks for stopping by. On the show today, Lisa and I talk with Brandon Burney. Yep, two Bernies, one show. All for your listening pleasure. Brandon tells us about how he got into this crazy business, working for the likes of Three Doors Down, Collective Soul, and a few more acts. What has kept him off the road the last couple of years and how he is working to get back out. He also shares a few stories about, his crazy life so far and how he met his current fiance, Tony Globus, who was on our show last Friday. That's a great story. I sure hope you enjoy that one. Anyway, we had a lot of fun. It was a great conversation. Let's check it out.
My name's Brandon Locke Burney, and I go by Bernie. And you can tell how long someone's known me by which name they choose to use. So if you've known me since school and stuff, I hear Brandon, and then it's suddenly like, who are you talking to? Oh yeah, that's my name. And Bernie came from obviously playing a lot of sports growing up, but I was in bands with all Brandons. And it's like, and I was on teams with all Brandons. I was born in the late 70s, so this was before Braden and Bryden and all these other, creative versions of Brandon.
Yeah. It's funny. We were talking earlier about like names that were popular around this time earlier. There was a name, my nephew is named Tristan. And that's Jesus. Because when he was born, it was right around that time of Legends of the Fall.
Okay.
And that was that cat's name. Completely not related, but
I think
you grew up at a time of Brandons.
Yeah, it was John with an H. Until Jonathan started to really, really lean into the John without an H. Mm-hmm. And no weird names. Occasionally you'd get a Hunter or something like that.
Yeah.
But usually, I'd say, post World War II Bible names or regular names, that kind of thing. Now it's crazy. People are just trying to be creative. They want their child, in case they actually are special, to have this name that people will instantly recognize, and then now they're all just crazy.
Yeah. Where are you from, man, originally?
Originally from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Did you do you have brothers, sisters? You come from a musical family?
The only musical member of my family, other than myself, is my cousin Mish. And she's my oldest cousin on my mom's side. So she's the firstborn. And she is a monster bass player. She's a monster musician. She was, for 20 years, she was the music librarian for Microsoft when she lived out in Seattle. So
did you say
now Mish?
Me.
Like Michelle.
Oh, me.
So Mish.
Oh, okay.
Or as a kid called her one time, Mish. That's what I have her in my phone, because it reminds me of that moment. It was really funny, and I was still laughing about it because this kid had to be like, 5 or 6 years old, and he couldn't say Mish.
He just said Mish.
He just said Mish.
And is that what kind of got you to start playing her, or was this all friends, like, we're going to start a band?
My the paradigm shift in my life was freshman year of high school. The kid who lived 2 doors down from me, his name was Brian, and his dad, him and his mom had split, and his dad was sleeping in the spare room, and it was really weird. But he bought him a stereo, and he bought him Led Zeppelin 4 on CD. And I remember everything about that afternoon. Got off school. We got done playing basketball because it was a basketball church across the street. And he goes, "You got to check this out." And so we go back to his house, and he gives me these big old, can headphones, because this is Dad's old stereo system, and put it on, and I can remember everything about the winding up of the tape machine, um, to Black Dog, and then Robert Plant's voice, and when the drums kick in, and at that moment, everything in my life changed. I wanted to be a musician. I didn't stop wanting to, because before that I was like, I'm gonna go join the Marines and I'm gonna play football. And that moment, none of that was important anymore.
A little bit different.
Yeah,
Could have been.
all of that disappeared. It was gone. And since that moment, since I was 15 years old till now, I've played guitar. Who was given to me? My first acoustic guitar was given to me by my mom and dad for Christmas one year, and my cousin Mish, she taught me how to tune the guitar. And the first song I learned was a Grateful Dead song. And,
yay!
I hate the Grateful Dead.
So do I.
I'm surprised she didn't log out when you said that.
But I got American Beauty on that like BMI thing that my dad signed up. So I got like 10 CDs to start with, and it's American Beauty and Creedence Clearwater, Moondance, which I still have the CD. And when I got my first bit of like money for chore money, because I was too young to actually have a job. Chore money. I rode my bike down to Kmart, which was a little bit too far for my mom's comfort, and with my my best friend's older brother, his name was Jesse, and we went down and I bought. He loaned me the money, and I bought AC/DC Live, which was the double disc tall version, the Live from Donington.
Yeah.
And between that and the album, the vinyl version, which my parents had all the Led Zeppelin records at the house.
Yeah.
I was like, that was my life.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. This whole BMG thing, did you ever follow up and buy the regular price CDs over the next year? Or did you just get your 10 CDs for $1 and bail like everyone else?
And canceled. Great story though. After about
don't roll your eyes, Lisa.
after teaching myself to play guitar a little bit on the acoustic guitar, I needed an electric guitar.
Yeah.
And so my dad, we didn't have a lot of money, and they hadn't quite worked their way up, the ladders at work and stuff. My dad wasn't a supervisor yet. He worked for a gas company, so he's crawling under houses installing gas lines at that point. And I got an internship at a local radio station, WRDU 106.1, the home of rock and roll in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I got to meet all the DJs, and one of the DJs, his name was Brian McFadden, and he came down with a cancer, so he started selling his guitars, because he was in cover bands and a professional musician, and he cut all the spots for the, if they needed a song recorded for like a parody thing for the morning show or for a commercial they were doing, he did all that stuff. And he was selling one of his Les Paul standards. Keep in mind, at this time, brand new, they were $1,500.
Yeah.
Brand new. So he was selling it, and he was selling it for steal. And so I asked my dad, I told him about it, and he's like, he's the kind of guy he buys tools. He has to spend his money on tools. So he only buys a tool once, and it better work. So when it came down to getting it, I was like, it's what Jimmy Page plays, who was, my idol. It still is. And he goes, okay, how much? It was $750.
Wow. That's a steal.
And it was a steal then. So we bought it, and my mom, when she found out how much it cost, I can still remember hearing them and her yelling at him at the top of her lungs in the kitchen, and I was in my bedroom, and I was just holding this guitar like, oh my God, what have I done? And
how old did you say you were at this time?
I was 15.
15.
And my dad kicked my bedroom doors off the hinge, and he said, "You better fucking learn how to play that." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And
And then it became your
I
life.
kept my promise.
Right on.
I kept my
How
promise.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did you get your start, in the industry, teching and so forth? How did you
So being in bands for so long, and I got job at the local guitar store, and if you're in Raleigh, you know what Harry's Guitar Shop is. It's been there since 1986, 85 really, but 86, and all like so many great musicians came in. I met the dudes from Sonic Youth one day working there. Audley Freed was a teacher there at one point, and I started taking lessons when I was working there, and I'm still really great friends with my guitar teacher, who is he was roommates with Audley as well, and so I started to get to meet some of the older local musicians, and I started working on guitars at the shop because they had a luthier, but they need somebody to do everyday stuff. So I started working on that. Anyway, so I learned how to take care of my guitars and guitars customers come through, blah 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 blah. Fast forward all the way to when I got my gig in the industry. Was the band that I was in, the guitar player. We were on a we had a management contract with the manager for at the time with Three Doors Down. And at this point, Todd, the bass player, got into some legal trouble and he had to leave the band. And due to our relationships with the guys in the band, because we had recorded several demos at Chris Henderson's Rivergate studio in Hendersonville, Tennessee. So we'd make the trek from Asheville to Hendersonville often and record songs. And Justin Biltman, he got offered an audition. So Justin didn't have a bass at the time, and I was playing bass in that band. So I loaned Justin my bass. He went and he nailed the audition. He got the gig, and his first show with Three Doors was in Moscow in front of like 85,000 people.
Yeah.
Talk about stress. The same day that happened, apartment flooded. He was living with me at the time, and the water line for some reason in this apartment ran in the roof, and it busted and flooded everything, ruined everything he owned except for what he took with him on his first tour. So we went, and when he got home, my girlfriend and I at the time, bought him some clothes and stuff like that, so he had something when he came back home. And then a year went by. I was living in Asheville, working at another guitar shop there, called Music City, and things weren't going well for me. My rent went up like $900, because everybody was like, "Oh, let's move to Asheville and buy all the property because it's a cute little, redneck mountain town, and it was cheap to live there." My first apartment there was actually a house next door to my roommate drug dealer in a neighborhood called Montfort. Anybody who's lives in Asheville or been to Asheville will know where Montfort is. The house that we lived in sold for, when the landlord got rid of it, sold for $1.8 million.
Wow.
And we were paying splitting rent between three people. Our total that we split was $500 plus utilities.
Nothing good lasts forever.
Yeah. I was working at Circuit City, and then I moved to Sears, and then to the guitar shop, and all part-time. So, we could go and regionally tour around and play music and all that stuff. And I got a call from the tour manager at the time. His name's Gary Pettis. And he was like, "I need a VIP guy, and I need a guitar tech for 6 shows," because they were doing an acoustic run, but they had 6 festival shows on that run. And he was like, "You think you could do it?" And I said, before he finished, I said, "Yes." And then I got a call from their day-to-day manager, Darren, who was also he lived in Asheville at the time. We knew him back then, and he called, and he before they even told me what they were going to pay me, I was like, "I'll take it. Get me out of here." I said yes to the gig. I packed up all my stuff. I expedited a passport because I needed one. That was the last bit of money that I had. I had to borrow some money from my mom and dad to get the remainder of that. And I moved everything into storage, and I moved back to my parents' house in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I got on a plane for rehearsals. And that was in 2014, I think. 2014, late 2014. May have been 2015.
Have you stopped since?
Yeah. Yeah, and I got sick recently. We'll cover that later, but it was I took to it like a fish to water. I just loved every bit about it. However, my first tour wasn't my best tour because I got food poisoning on my first day. First tour was a show in Temecula for a wine and balloon festival. And my after show food got me sick. And fortunately, we had a driver day off the next day because I wouldn't need it because I puked all over the bus twice in front of everyone. And it was like projectile vomit. It was
nice.
It was not good. I mean, my eyes burned. I was crying. I couldn't stop. And yeah.
Not the best
So
start.
I spent the next day in a bathtub somewhere in Oregon.
How did
Beef tips and milk were a bad choice.
How did you adapt, coming from wet to just being on the road? I mean, everybody's a little different. Coming from where you came from, how did you adapt to the tour life? Because we all know it's a little, there are rules, which is one of the first ones is don't throw up all over the bus.
That's sort of an unspoken rule. The first rule is no number 2 on the bus.
Yeah. But
second,
how did you adapt to the day-to-day thing? Everyone thinks it's a party on the road,
Yeah, no. That's great. That's the best misconception, I think, ever. What's that meme where like back in the 80s backstage and then today and it's just everybody on their phone?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it's like, especially with a legacy band. So I got lucky. My first job was with Three Doors Down. I didn't have to do I didn't have to work my way up the ladder. I got in with a platinum act that was once an A-lister, and they were still doing 1 to 2 truck tours and Old Dogs on the road, and which I was kind of like, since I was a friend of the band, I was stuck with that moniker for quite a while. And being the VIP guy, if you've worked with VIP guys, they don't get up till afternoon and they do whatever they want. And then they set up the meet, make sure the meet and greets are all that stuff. And I had all those duties, trying to get posters signed, meeting all the fans. I adapted really well to that because today I've got, part-time 30 years of retail experience, on the floor, talking to customers, doing the minutia, doing the little work, being friendly, having a murder movie in my head, going on, with these dead mother, just the way that people treat you in retail really translate well to that position. And so, but I wanted to be a part of the crew.
Yeah.
And my first production manager, he was really hard on me. I mean, I think he was wanted to see if I would quit. Friend of the band, first tour, musician. Those are all red flags. They were all red flags to a lot of the old dogs. And
Conrad?
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to say anything bad about him or anything. He taught me a lot, and as hard as he was on me when there were teaching moments, he was good to me.
Yeah.
And after I sort of passed the first, like, I'm not going away, I'm not quitting test, it was um, a lot more tests after that. But
Yeah.
the best way, I think, to handle people who approach their job like that is you have to work your ass off, and
Yeah.
you have to make them, they have to be able to trust you, because they don't. So you have to be there. You have to
Yeah.
anticipate, you have to learn, you have to pay attention. And so being the VIP guy, but I wanted to be out on the crew. So I was only making like $500 a week, but I was coming from making $250 a week in retail, 40 hours a week at $10 an hour. That's $250 before taxes.
Yeah.
It's $1,200 a month before taxes. It's not a lot of money, especially when your rent is $1,300. So I had a side job delivering pizzas, and to make up the rest and pay all the other bills and stuff like that. But um, I'm going on. I'm sorry. I'm tangenting. So what I did was, even those VIP guy was up first thing in the morning with everyone else, and I was unloading trucks, and I was loading trucks at the end of the night, and doing my VIP job. Anything I could do to help anybody. And since I had the 6 tech things, the other the stage right, the main guy took care of Chris Henderson and Justin Biltman. I had to take care of new guitar player Chet Roberts. He replaced Matt Roberts. Matt left the band for health reasons, and then he unfortunately passed away a few years ago. You can look, people can look all that up and judge for themselves. But the Chet was great. Chet and I had the same personality. And what was great for me setting his stuff up and taking care of it is he liked his guitars the way I like my guitars.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. All I have to learn is the little stuff that nobody talks about, nothing nobody teaches, how to live on a bus, how to live with 12 other people, etiquette for dealing with talent and artists, etiquette with how to, the proper chain of command. I had to go to learning how I was intimidated by Conrad, so I had to learn to stop going to Gary when I had needed stuff, because he's a tour manager. I needed to deal with the production manager, and so I kind of had to just deal with the sort of his management style, which was not something I was used to in any facet. Once you became one of his guys, though, he was great. We have a mutual friend, um, Cowboy Warren, Mike Warren. He was the guitar tech, and he was fantastic. He didn't shun me. He didn't push me. He was like, "Yeah, you want to learn something? I'll teach you stuff."
Yeah.
And he taught me little tricks of the trade and things like that. And then our stage manager Norm started to take me under his wing, and he started to teach me stuff. And then our monitor guy for the longest time was named Flash, and Flash didn't want to like me at first because new guy. You'll be gone next tour. And when they all figured out I was going to stay, I wanted to stay, and I was starting to like really get my feet under me and doing the job like it should be done. They started to lighten up, most of the crew. And then my second tour with them, I was mostly one of the guys. The only trouble with that is I'm a teetotaler. I don't drink alcohol, and I don't do drugs. No, none of the crew guys did any drugs anymore, if they did. But they drank a lot, like a lot. I had to fight so I could have water in the fridge.
Can you walk us through a typical day when you're on tour?
Yeah. Before I left, it's been 2 Aprils now. My last gig was in Motor City Casino in Detroit, and it was April. And I was very sick, and I was getting sicker. But typical day, up at 7 or 8. Loading usually starts between 9 or 10. Get up, find catering. This is rule 2. Find catering. Find catering. Get breakfast. Sit down. Eat. Wake up early. Cup of coffee, soda. You know, I'm a Mountain Dew guy, so that was kind of my poison.
Mountain Dew.
Yeah, nectar of the gods. That first sip of a crisp, cold Mountain Dew is the most refreshing, delicious thing on this planet.
Yeah.
I hear it, crack that can, and it's just like, let's do it. Get unload a truck. I was stage left at the time, so I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. I had one guitar vault, one rack, and I'd try to find a case to put my little work box on that I bought. Yeah, and then Mike would he'd be like, "Hey, you should get some of these tools and these tools. This is what I use here and that." Blah 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 blah. So I started buying tools and getting it in, but set up my little thing, restring all the guitars, make sure they're set up, because they've been cold all night. Just make sure they play great. Test the wireless. Have everything set up, ready for line check. And at the time, line check was sort of like a 3-piece band. I'd usually just test Chet's guitars and then I put on the bass because Bernie, Mike can play the hell out of a guitar.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But we do a little Alice in Chains or AC/DC. Boom. Name of that band was Three Wings Each. That was our crew band. And then after show food, they got wings, but there was only enough where each person could get 3 little drumlets. And it was like, oh, and then most everybody else would go do whatever until soundcheck. Soundcheck came along. We did soundcheck, and then you didn't have to be there until showtime. But I would usually stay there all day and learn how to use the. We were using a Fractal at the time before we switched over to a Kemper, and just basically learn that system.
Yeah.
On the next tour, it was a arena tour, and we didn't have Mike. He went, it was a pretty long break between next tours, and he, got another gig. So we had a new guy who I won't mention, and we had production rehearsals in St. Charles, and things didn't really go well for him. And then I got named crew chief, which sitting down with the production manager and knowing that he didn't want to do it, but he had to do it because I was the holdover from the last tour, so I knew how
Yeah.
the back line went. And so I got saddled with that responsibility. In my head, they're like, "You're going to do this," and I'm like, "Oh Jesus!" But out of my mouth went, "Absolutely, boss. You can count on me."
Yeah.
You figure it out, sink or swim. And I wanted it bad enough, so I started just, kind of researching that kind of stuff. I really got into some of my dad's leadership books because at some point he became supervisor and he had these leadership books and stuff, and they were interesting to read. Psychology of like, how to motivate your team. And since I'm the new guy, that's the hard part, is getting these guys who have way more experience than you to be led by you. But so I usually, when it came to what they did best, defer to them.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing. You don't need to. And then and then showtime. And all I had to really do showtime was make sure that I plugged in the wireless packs, because I missed a couple on my first gig, and that was embarrassing. Pack it all up, put it in the truck, get on the bus, go do it again. And I found it really, really easy.
Yeah.
Is there anything challenging that people might not be aware of, or?
Well, if you've never done it before, how hard it is to tune a guitar in 3 minutes. Like, it should be easy, right? But you got ears in so you can hear everything. It's loud. And the stress of paying attention to your guy or whoever the artist you're taking care of, in case they break a string and you got to switch a guitar, there's a problem, and tuning the next guitar in tune while it's humid or it's
Yeah.
cold outside. Those little things that you don't anticipate or you don't worry about when you're in your local band. You're playing in your local band. I tune my guitars tuners down there. You know, you that aspect of it was challenging. The other challenging part is communicating with local crews and sort of getting the interpersonal dynamics that are with that particular crew and how they like to work and how the theater runs and where you put your gear.
Yeah. Yeah.
The challenges.
In my experience dealing with what you're just saying right there is like coming into a venue, like they're there every day. You're just another act. So you kind of got to respect the local guys because
Yeah.
they know everything about that building. If you get a hum, they could probably tell you, "Hey, well, every band gets that hum here, so you're not chasing your tail."
Yeah.
How humbling is that as a crew chief to go in there and I mean, are you good with going in there and going, "Hey, this is my crew, but this is your house"?
Fortunately, after the first few tours, um, I was doing local gig stuff,
Uh-huh.
and I started out just pushing because it was nice to not have to think about anything, to just push. So I started to learn the dynamics of the local crews. There's always someone on a local crew who knows how to do it better than you. There's someone on the local crew who complains all the time that you're not doing it a certain way. So, usually I start as when I became stage manager and I was still the crew chief. You get in with the local steward, you talk about how the day's going to go, and you really support the local guys. I've watched dudes yell at locals. I've only had to do it a couple times, usually when they're not being safe or they're being disrespectful. And during COVID, when we were doing shows and someone wanted to be disrespectful, complain, or not really want to work or follow directions, I always offered them the opportunity to go home because we are very lucky to be here. A lot of people aren't working, and right now you're working. So, and if they chose to continue the path that they were on, I'd go to their steward and send them home. They still get paid for their 4 hours, but it's easier to do it without them. And sometimes a lot of guys would get a change of heart and be like, "Cool, be here. Just be happy you're here, man.
Yeah.
We want you here. We need you."
Yeah, exactly.
And I learned a lot, working with guys who've been crew chiefs in the local scene, in the local community. Quite a lot. Just pick up on what I wanted, how I wanted to handle new people, or how I would handle someone with more experience, and just kind of be one of them. Just be an extension of the local crew.
Yeah.
Because most of those people are great.
Yeah, I've worked with
What's your rigor?
Yeah, I've worked with cats. Like I'm not going to sit here like myself who come in with just total respect for the locals. Um, you always have issues with union houses, but that's what you in this. But then I've also worked with cats who come in and treat the locals like they're nothing, and that's something I don't appreciate at all.
No.
Because but it's you get the good with the bad with the good. When it comes to that, you just got to be able to spot it early on.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of really bad leadership.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't get you what you want. It makes your day harder. Not being able to do this for the last 2 years has made me really miss that I worked a festival over Christmas that Tony and I do every year. I couldn't do it one year, and then last December, not this December just passed, but last December, I really could only do like 2 or 3 hours in the day.
Wow.
But this past December, I did the whole 5 days.
Mm.
You know, I really pushed through. I'm I've been experiencing for over the last year and a half. Uh, this yet to be diagnosed skin pain, and it's 24/7. It's the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life, and I feel it all day, every day. And being able to now that I've had to do it for so long, I'm kind of starting in my mind being like, okay, this is what zero is. This is how you're gonna feel all the time. Let's, and with the help of some medication, I'm able to put that pain just back here. It's still there. I feel it every time I move my legs. But I've been able to start doing the job. And so I worked as assistant stage manager with Tony, and so we did all the stuff, did lights, sound, push cases, changeover for all the different bands, and it was it felt great. It felt really great, and I really appreciate how amazing this job is. It's not when I started on my musical path, it isn't quite where I wanted to be, but I'm 5 feet from it.
Yeah.
And they can't do, they could do the show without me, obviously, but me isn't in the royal me, us, the text, they can't do it without us.
Yeah.
And it feels really great to go from load in to load out and put a show on. Only had to cancel one show due to rain and inadequate, staging facilities. The 4th of July event at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, on the stage. Unfortunately, the stage was damaged, I think, on transit, and then it fell apart, and there was just nothing they could do.
Yeah.
No one was hurt or anything. It wasn't, like some of the crazy stuff you see on the internet.
Yeah. Right on.
You mentioned Tony, your girlfriend, or
my fiance
guests.
Yeah, I asked her. She said yes. So I'm gonna take her word for it.
Okay. Since you both work in the music industry, how do you guys? I know now you've been home for a little bit, but when you're both doing separate tours, or how do you guys find time or balance in that relationship?
FaceTime is amazing. And since this work is our lives, whether we're together or not, work is work. That's our rule. Work is work. You get a gig, you go get it. The only time, and if she's offered something that she's not comfortable with, she'll discuss it with me. And I'm like, well, what's bothering you about doing the job? Because a lot of times she'll get mistaken for Tony and not Tony. So some people don't see the Tony with an eye, and they're like, oh, it's Tony Globus. Look at his resume. This is amazing. We got to get this guy.
Yeah.
And then Tony answers the phone, and they're like, is Tony there? Yeah, I'm Tony. Oh. But she's pretty impressive, and I've learned an incredible amount from her. In fact, the day that I met her, she was just assistant stage manager on stage A, and the actual stage manager was off not doing stage manager work and arguing and yelling with people, and really just bad leadership. So everybody's coming to her for questions. So I figured if I need anything, why don't I just ask her?
Yeah.
And we got to talking and stuff like that. And if you want to go into that, I'll tell you all about that day. But I was smitten when I met her. It took her a while to come around, and I just got out of I was 2 years removed from my last relationship, and she was sort of ending one at that point in her life. So we became fast friends, start talking every day. And, eventually it got to the, uh, it got to the, should I get off the pot kind of thing where I was like, what do you want me to do? She's like, she said, what do you want me to do? I said, I don't know what you need to do. All I'm telling you is that I'm crazy about you. And, I think that you're crazy about me. And, turns out she was.
Right on, man.
So,
That's amazing.
yeah,
well,
I was like, I'll move to where you are because, I'm living at my parents' house at the time. My mom and dad are great. My dad's the best roommate I've ever had. He'll leave you alone. Every now and then he'll give you $100 handshake, and
he doesn't put his name on the milk.
Yeah.
Don't drink my milk.
No, my dad is always. I'm a mama's boy, but secretly, I think my dad has been my biggest supporter in my musical endeavors.
Right on, man. It's hard to get that, from cats up from I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming we're around the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
he's probably a little younger.
Oh man,
I'm as old as
never misses a chance there. She never misses a chance. No, like it's hard from cats from our generation, our parents supporting this, Lisa gets tired of hearing me say this, but I always say, like, my mom still thinks I'm hanging out with my friends in the band all these years later.
Yeah, my mom doesn't. My mom
other than Tony,
how the business works.
Other than Tony, man, do you have any other mentors in this industry? See, I'm giving credit where credit is due.
Yeah. People I was able to trust and ask. Gary Pettis, at the time tour manager for 3 Doors Down, and then he was replaced with a guy by the name Chuck Purcell, who originally he was a tour manager for country artist Tracy Lawrence.
Yeah.
Yep, Tracy Lawrence. He did that for 20 years, and when I met Chuck, we hit it off pretty good. We were fast friends, and until I left 3 Doors, who's somebody I could trust and ask for advice.
Yeah,
and he would shoot me straight. We did a tour with Collective Soul and became fast friends with all the crew guys there. I still talk with those guys all the time, and still fill in. I fill in for their old guitar tech John, super killer guy. He lives in New York City, and he's he's very rough around the edges. He's very like he lives in Queens. I don't know, but he's gruff and he likes to like really push boundaries. But he and I have the same sense of humor, and we got along. And he was like, "Boom, I like this guy." And he was able to teach me some things. And if I, we haven't talked in a while, but and then of course Mike Warren. If I need anything, he'll help me. Haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but I follow him on the Instagram, keep up with his exploits.
Mike did this show, man. He's one of my oldest. He's one of my best friends. I turned him on to Conrad for that.
He's one of Conrad's guys. Conrad loves him.
Yeah,
and I mean everybody's ever worked with him loves him.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's genuine, very what do they say to show my very salt of the earth.
He is genuinely humble.
That's an old
giving him a compliment
term, right?
Hurts. It feels like giving him a compliment hurts. Like you could see it, his shoulders kind of shrug, and he goes that "oh shucks" kind of thing, and it's not an act. It's him.
No, it's he's a good dude. We came up together. I've known him a lot longer than I've known my kid.
Yeah. You might know Brandon Deaton.
I know Brandon.
Yeah, he and I been friends. We only worked together once. It was at a Cincinnati Reds 150 anniversary kind of thing. So we set up on the field at helicopters. It was cool shit.
Mhm.
And, we talk a lot. Old guitar tech Tim, who replaced me on stage left when I moved over to stage right to take care of the big guy and Justin. And believe it or not, even though he's younger than me, Justin and I have been friends for over 20 years, and ride or die. Like that's when I get married, if he's not on tour, I don't have just one best man. I'll have a worst man, and everybody else is my best man. The worst man will have to do all the dirty work. But yeah, he's one of those guys. He's a fantastic musician. He's out right now doing his country music thing. He and I bonded over that. We bonded over rock and roll. I met him at a guitar shop in Asheville shortly after I moved there. And then before I joined his band, we were in sort of not rival bands, but it's one of those things where you get play together and you're like, all right, we got to outdo these guys kind of thing, and having a blast, sort of playing that last little leg of that generation. So I was a few years older than those guys. Sort of rise up where everybody in town goes to shows, and then some point right around the DJ era, all that kind of stopped. And but if I need advice, I mean, our views on the world are diametrically opposed, but I love him, he loves me, man. We take care of each other. I can call him with advice.
Right on, man.
He'll be right there, whatever I need. In fact, when I was in the hospital and Tony was on tour, he drove all the way out to Bowling Green, Kentucky, where I was in the ICU, and he's one of the few family members that I have, my found family. One of my other friends is that I look up to. He and I are the same age. We have the same birthday. His name's Sean Carswell, and he works for Dirks Bentley. And he's always, when I was able to work, he was always throwing me potential gigs and stuff. Nothing ever lined up as far as like timing, because how tours work. Hey, can you do this? Your tour runs till the end of May, but this one starts in the middle of May, and they need somebody to do the whole thing.
Talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
So when we were researching you on your Instagram, one of your last posts says, "Fresh batch of sauce is ready."
Oh yeah.
What is that about?
Well, my dad makes this sauce from a recipe he got from a friend in high school, one of his high school friends, and he made it all the time, and I loved it. And it's called Big T's. But I started making some. So he and I will make it, change the recipe up a little bit. I have a tender palate, so hot sauce is a little kind of out of my. I love the flavor, but
must be a Bernie thing.
So yeah, fresh batch of sauce. Actually, I got this couple for you guys here, little mini.
Oh man,
nice.
Mini stuff. You can see little old me there on the sticker.
Wow.
And it's not spicy.
Yeah, no, but it is. It could be, depending on how much you want to put in. But I usually like a batch.
Better send her 2 bottles.
No. Oh, that's cool. Are you going to try to market it, or is it just for friends?
Right now, it's for recreational purposes.
Yeah.
See what people think. If there's people really like it.
Yeah.
Why not?
And what's it called again?
Right now there's Bernie sauce. So BURNEY 'S sauce. And I don't have anything on the internet other than just my posts.
Right on, man.
And this sticker has a funny story. But yeah, now that I walk around the house in my my super cool Jedi robe with coffee, pacing back and forth like Charlie on It's Always Sunny, writing my opus, trying to do stuff around the house and take care of myself and get better. Manage I got diagnosed with adult onset diabetes when I was 38, and I've been on a rough ride. I was doing really well at first, really taking care of myself, and I had about 4 or 5 episodes of diabetic ketoacidosis that took me to the hospitals, and every time I went, something would break. Yeah. And I got to the point where just couldn't do it. So I had to make a really hard call. I remember calling Chuck on the phone, and it was before we left for Detroit. And I said, "You don't need to worry. I'll be on the plane. I'll be in Detroit. But I think you need to find another guitar tech."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Why are you telling me this now?" He got mad at me. Yeah. I said, I was like, I didn't realize how bad it was. Like, I'm in the ICU right now. They're getting ready to let me leave. They didn't want me to leave, but I was like, nope. I got to be on a plane. I cannot put them in this situation. And I should have, but last minute, like, where are you gonna find a guitar tech? I'm not gonna do that. So the following Monday after we got home for that little 2-show thing, they let me go. They didn't want to find me dead in my bunk.
Yeah.
Which at the time I was like, well, at least someone will find me.
Yeah.
It was that dark. I get really dark.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, dying is very painful. The last incident before we started to turn this ship around was the worst one. I got misdiagnosed. I got misprescribed heart medication, and on top of another heart medication I was already taking, and somebody misread the script, and I was on the wrong medication, and I went into hypothermia, and like my heart rate dropped to like 94 beats per minute, or my temperature dropped down to 94 degrees, and my blood pressure was super high, and
all the things
shouldn't happen. Yeah, I was, and all the things that were happening to me, like I was. Tony said that I was, if we hadn't have gone to the hospital, because she happened to be home, when this episode happened, and it was only 11 days after my one before, so I hadn't even recovered from that last visit, and so, everybody gets fired in this business. Everybody moves on. Nothing lasts forever, unfortunately. And no matter how good you are at your job, new management team could come in and just not like you, or they're bringing their people in, or or you're bad at your job and you need to get fired.
As we say, the loyalty only goes one way.
That's right, and I knew that going in.
Yeah.
But to hear those words is never, it's coming. I knew it was coming.
Yeah. I
knew what the phone call was. And I still pleaded to keep my job, even though deep down I knew I couldn't do it.
Yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you.
I still, every now and then I'll hear from one of the band guys or some of the old crew guys, and if they need anything, they can always call me. No charge, nothing. I mean, that was my first job. The band took me around the world. They were good to me. I met the love of my life working with them. I'm forever on their side. I got their back.
Yeah.
So
I hear you. I feel you. I completely understand that.
And maybe one day we can go back home.
Yeah. Man, we appreciate your time today.
I can talk all day.
We really wanted, huh?
I could talk all day.
We really wanted to talk to you because Tony was such a delight for us to talk to her, and she spoke so highly of you. But man, we appreciate you taking the time today, and we're gonna end it on a lighter note than what you just did. Can't end it on doom. Can't end it on doom. The podcast is called Is Breakfast Included? And if we were having breakfast, what would you put that Bernie sauce on?
I put that Bernie sauce in. I did 2 eggs. I let them cook sunny side up, and once the not the yolk, but once the whites are white, I scramble them up. I add cheese, a dash of Bernie sauce, and a 4-ounce steak. I buy my steaks in a pack and I cut them up in little 4-ounce pieces. They go in the freezer. Thaw one out. I'll have steak and eggs for breakfast with a crisp diet Mountain Dew.
Right on, man.
And
at least you switched to diet.
Yeah, I had to. It took a while to get used to diet.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention Chris Henderson. He's always been a great mentor to me and a good dude to me. Yeah, I appreciate the influence he had on my life, not just as the guy I'm working for, but just kind of the bond he and I were able to kind of create. Because usually you don't get to have that type of relationship with the people you work with. Tours over, you don't talk to them because you're family when you're on the road, and then you go back to your regular family when you're not on the road, and that's how it works, and that's okay, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
that's the business, and I think we all sign up for that when we do it, and we're lucky if we get to make friends with the artist or the other crew members and stuff like that.
Right on, man. Right on.
Norm Shorts was always great to me as well. So Norm, Flash, I wouldn't be here without them.
Right on, brother. Well, Bernie, it was good talking to you, man. I appreciate the time.
Bernie, great talking to you.
Look forward to meeting you. Right on. Brandon Burney. It's a lot of fun. He told us he could have talked all day, and we kind of believe him. We can talk all day. We have to kind of cut ourselves off because we would just go off all different directions. But anyway, yeah, we had a lot of fun, and it was great getting to know him. You can find Bernie on Instagram at the Bernie Mac, and that's BURNEYMAC. We sure hope he gets that Bernie sauce off the ground because we're excited that he's sending us a couple of bottles. We're going to try it. He talked it up. I hope it lives up to the expectations. While you're checking out his Instagram, check out isbreakfast.com. Order a shirt from our store. Visit our YouTube. Watch all the episodes dating back to March of 2021. Yep, that's how long we've been doing this. Visit our Instagram, comment, subscribe, like, all of that stuff, except for the store. I don't think you have to subscribe to the store. You could just go on there and give us all your bank details, and then we'll send you a shirt. It's easy as that. All right, guys, I am done. Have a great day. And we'll talk to you next week.